Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the Unplugged Woodworkings podcast. So I'm back in the van. This ironically, this seems to be one of the better places for audio quality. I did get a couple of comments about last week's podcast. The audio wasn't great. I did kind of state that at the start of the podcast. You know, I ain't no Joe Rogan. I ain't got a studio, so you know I try to make do. I try to do the best I can. So you know, please bear that in mind when I do these. So I haven't really been up to a great deal in the last few days since I actually done the last podcast. I am recording this in advance because I am due to go back to work this week, unfortunately. Basically had a few days in the Lake District, got a couple of days left, so the weather's not great, so I don't know if I'm going to get anything done. So I actually got a comment the other day, and it was regarding a post I put up. I put a post up on Instagram, or that was a reel on Instagram, and it basically was a sped up reel. It basically showed me, like, from start to finish, basically sharpening a number 4 plane blade, putting it back together, setting the plane up, you know, giving it with a thumb and looking and whatever else, and then actually planing some plywood. So it'd been up a while, and it was it yesterday? It might have been yesterday. I kind of got a comment. So the comment, I'm gonna read it off my phone here, off my Instagram. The guy, by the way, the guy's he's an older gentleman, shall we say? So I kind of expected a little bit more. What's the word I'm looking for here? I'll let you decide. I'll let you decide and think if I was overthinking things. But he basically said rounded bevel. And he's actually referring to the video that I've just talked about there, and obviously the way I sharpen is a rounded bevel. So this is my own take on the Paul Sellers method. I seen Paul do this years and years ago, and I kind of adopted it and changed it for myself. So it is a variation on his technique, you know. I cannot say otherwise. And the way I do it now, I personally like it, and I think it's a good technique, and I think the way Paul does it is quite good as well. Although at the time when I started doing it, or at least trying to do it the way Paul was doing it, I wasn't able to do that, so that's why I adopted my own method. So it's the comment or the thread basically started off rounded bevel. So I replied, once you try it, there's no going back, and a laughing emoji after it, you know, no malice in it or anything, you know, just kind of tongue-in-cheek. And his reply was, dear God, no, please keep rounded bevels away from all proper woodworkers. So from all proper woodworkers. So I don't know, maybe I'm not a proper woodworker. Who am I to say I'm a proper woodworker? But you know, he's kind of implying I'm not a proper woodworker, and people that use a rounded bevel on proper woodworkers. So I reply to that. I may not be a proper woodworker, but I'm pretty sure Paul Sellers is. Now, I do actually regard Paul Sellers as a proper woodworker. He's been doing it like over 50 odd years. I don't agree with everything he does, but you know, he is a good teacher, and he's highly knowledgeable, and he is a highly skilled craftsperson. And I don't care what anyone says, you've only got to watch some of his stuff to see that, you know, it's fact. You know, it's not hearsay. So he kind of got back to us quite quickly, actually. He's the very last woodworker you should follow. His techniques are absolutely appalling, and there are far more proficient craftsmen around for excellence with hand tools look at the late David Charlesworth on YouTube, spelled wrong. So I disagree with that. I don't think Paul Sellers, you know, techniques are wrong or whatever. I'll be the first to put my hands up. I've learned quite a lot from Paul Sellers. You know, I think he's a real deal. I think he's a hell of a woodworker. David Charlesworth, I have visited David Charlesworth, not in person, obviously. Just I didn't have that privilege. You know, just on his YouTube channels. Obviously, he's got DVDs. Unfortunately, he did pass away. And I did basically state, you know, my reply was each to their own, mates, but you can't criticise people or call them non-proper woodworkers because they use rounded bevels. And I did take and I did take the option to go and view his profile, and I am actually following him. You know, there's quite a lot of people who I've just followed back, because what I tend to do when someone follows us woodworking wise, I'll usually have a quick look on the profile. If the profile's private, I don't follow them back at all, because I don't know what they're about. If it's public and it's all to do with woodworking stuff and I like it, I give them a follow back. So this is what I've probably done with this guy. So where was I? Yeah, you can't criticise people or call them non-proper woodworkers because they use rounded bevels. That's just like me saying you're not a proper woodworker because you use Dell construction. So obviously I did have a look at his profile, and there was one of them where he was using Dell construction. For anyone that doesn't know, basically Dell construction, you could use it in the same way as a mortise and tenon joint, but instead of creating a mortise and tenon joint, you're actually using dowels. I'm pretty sure everyone who's watching this knows what Dell construction is. But he did do that, but you know, kind of each to their own. But I kind of did make a bit of a point with this. So where did I say it? That's just like me saying you're not a proper woodworker because you use Dell construction. The history shows, sorry, the historical records show that craftsmen did use rounded bevels. Are they non-proper woodworkers? So yeah, on examining some of the old tool chests, you know, dating back like couple of hundred years, and craftspeople actually did use a rounded bevel. It's very well seen. But if you look into kind of like the historical, you know, just before the Industrial Revolution, you know, before machines and everything, there was a lot of pressure put on craftspeople, you know, like woodworkers and such, to have an item made in a day. You know, that might have been, you know, like a small table, you know, and for some people that they might be thinking, well, it's not really a hard thing to do, to make a table, you know, in a day. If those people have got, you know, like starting from milled, you know, fully plain wood, or lumber, if you like, fully dressed, and they're using power tools, you know, they've got access to a table saw. But when you've got to bear in mind, like before the Industrial Revolution, there was these guys that were starting with raw wood, you know, they had to dress it, and then start cutting it to length, and everything was done by hand, and there was a lot of pressure to get these like products finished, you know, for the end of the day, or at least the following day, to have like minimal like stuff to do, you know. So this is evident if you look at dovetails. You'll tend to see like the old stuff. If they're doing like half blind dovetails, you see saw cuts. You'll see saw cuts into the, into the front board. This is quite common, and sometimes some of the dovetails, like, I kind of call them sloppy. Like, basically from today's standards, you could say they were sloppy, but as I've just said, you've got to bear in mind that these guys were on like a tight schedule. They needed to do it, obviously, there was pressure on them to get it done, and obviously for people to get paid and whatnot. So like from that aspect, they wanted things done like super quick, and it's the same with sharpening as well. It's you kind of, if you look at like David Charlesworth, from what I can remember, because I did visit, his sharpening technique, but and I'm not saying it's wrong. All I'm pointing out is that it takes time doing it that sort of way. So if you're using like templates, and then David would use like the ruler trick, where you get like a super fine ruler, you put the ruler on the stone, and as what it does, it puts a very, very slight back angle on the blade you're using. I mean, looking at it now, I personally wouldn't do it, not now, but obviously this is the whole point of it. And obviously craftspeople just did not have time to do that. You can, for me, I can only imagine how proficient the old craftspeople were, like before the Industrial Revolution, how quick and easily they could sharpen their tools. I would love, if it was possible, I would love to sit and watch them all day, just for one day in the workshop. Honestly, the amount of knowledge and value you could pick up. Obviously, with me being a hand tool woodworker, the knowledge would be phenomenal. I'm guessing anyway. I could be totally wrong, but I don't think I am. So that's kind of what I said. So I basically said what constitutes a proper woodworker is like cutting multiple dovetails, in the same board. I was like, yeah, I can do that. Does that make me a proper woodworker? I mean, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. And then I basically finished off the comment with the ability to choose and have an opinion makes the world a better place, which I believe it does, for people to be able to have the freedom of speech and have opinions about things, and not kind of try and push them down people's throats. He never got back to us after that one. I don't know, but it's got his question: am I a proper woodworker? Are we the unplugged people that use rounded bevels proper woodworkers? Who knows? Who are we to say? Yeah. So that actually did get us thinking a little bit, like, kind of, should I consider myself as a proper woodworker? Maybe I am, maybe I'm not. So that kind of got us thinking, like, what would constitute for it. I mean, and I started thinking about things, and I was thinking about maybe making something that I would consider, and I think maybe some other people would consider, maybe like a Queen Anne's side table or a tea table, something like that. I'll try and get a picture up of the screen, something that I'm like considering, be a picture somewhere. And I thought, obviously, what would make it even cooler and more of a challenge is that I would actually be doing this on a Roman workbench. I don't think these were typically built on a Roman workbench. I don't know the full history of them, but from memory and everything else, these were built on tall benches. I'm pretty sure I'm right with that, but I can't be 100%. So yeah, it would it would present a few problems, you know. I think maybe one of the bigger problems for me, because obviously I've got quite a lot of experience on a Roman workbench, but one of the problems that pops straight to mind, and it's probably the only problem, if I'm honest, and that would be shaping the legs. I mean, when you kind of look at it, the top's the top. You know, there's numerous videos, reels and whatever, and pictures of me basically, you know, tackling like a tabletop, like lots of coffee tables. There's like a few dining tables, you know, even on the Roman workbenches. I don't particularly see it as a problem. It can be hard graft, you know. Obviously, when you're flattening things out, that can be extremely hard, especially on your back. If you've got issues with your back like I have, that can be challenging in that respect. But like, other than that, you know, if you like kind of skill wise, or you know, clamping, like, you know, workpiece holding, it's not an issue pretty much. I mean, it's the same for the, you know, for the table rails. Again, you know, they won't like be too much of a problem. And I will actually get to use some I don't know what you would class them as. Would you class them as like a half blind tenant, or maybe a blind tenant, or I'm not quite sure what the joint would actually be. Again, I'm going from memory here, because it's been quite a long time since I've actually looked at these sorts of tables, but I'm pretty sure that the tenants are like, maybe half cheeked, they might be called. Look, half cheeked. So that is probably better if I explain it for you that are watching. You'll be able to get a picture. I'll be able to get a picture up of this. So basically, if you can imagine a lap joint, that's pretty much it. So you remove half, or maybe a bit more, maybe a bit less, depending on what you're building and where things are going to go. But let's just say, for argument's sake, we remove half, so you've got what looks like a lap joint, and basically that's it. I think the arm mitered as well. I think, I could be wrong with that, but as I said, they're not like the rails, like, they're really not an issue. So they'll be pretty easy to do. So the legs are probably going to be like the headache, if you will. So for those of you that are watching, obviously I can stick a picture up. So for those of you that are listening, basically or at least I will start I will start off with you know, maybe some stock. It's somewhere in the region of maybe 3 inches by 3 inches. Again, I haven't got any like correct sizes off the top of my head, but I'm kind of guessing somewhere in the region of 3 inches by 3 inches, might be just slightly under. So basically at the top, where the rails will go into, where the mortises will go, it's basically, we're cutting like kind of a little square out, if you will, at the top. So if you can imagine one of the corners, this would be the corner that would point in over. And same again, I'm not 100% with the sizes, but maybe an inch, maybe 2 inches, inch and 3/4, something like that. So we would have the internal corner and then just square that off. You know, obviously that would be like maybe like 1 inch and 3/4 squared. Then we would saw it down and basically cut that square. Again, I don't know, maybe come down 4 inches, something like that. Cut that square to do our mortises. So from there, I mean, that part in itself, that's not an issue on the Roman workbench. Bearing in mind, I don't know if I would do that first. I'm just kind of describing what needs to be done. So I don't know if I would leave that till, you know, later, or well, I would do it there. Obviously, I would have to check. I would have to like basically run things through my head and see how I'm going to do things. So I mean, after that, then this is where the problems start. At least for me. Bearing in mind, before I even start this, I've got to make a template up. Most likely, probably be cardboard. Then I'll probably transfer that to some thin ply. Probably. Past experience for me when I've been using cardboard, because I'm careless, it tends to get damaged very easily, and especially with us working outside. And we're kind of starting to, you know, we're not quite in winter yet, but it is coming. We're in autumn. You know, the rain's starting to come, all the damp weather. So it kind of it doesn't make a lot of sense to even entertain that. Not for me anyway. You know, it would be a lot better I ever had, like, you know, a winter workshop, which technically I should have, but I haven't. So, you know, I do actually still work outside in, you know, extremely cold weather. As long as it's not raining and as long as it's not too windy, I do tend to, you know, get myself out there. Although I am finding it a little bit harder as I get older. Obviously all the joints and my fingers stop working when it gets so cold. So, like, from after I've made the templates, obviously transferred it onto ply and cut it out, and, you know, once I'm happy with everything, obviously I've got to transfer that onto the piece. So it's the same again, where the internal corner obviously is pointing in towards the center of the table top, if you will. So you've got the internal corner at like 90 degrees, and you've got the external corner at 90 degrees. So on that external corner, you'll obviously place the template on, and you'll trace it on one side, and you'll transfer it to the other side, and obviously transfer that. And then you've kind of it's funny how it's done. I mean, I don't think I've seen it done with hand tools. Obviously the original ones were done with hand tools, but how I've seen people kind of remove that section, what I've just described, you know, how it's penciled out, bandsaw basically. So I don't use a bandsaw. I don't own a bandsaw, so I'm not overly sure how I'm going to remove that section. Same again, if you're watching on YouTube, I will try and get some pictures up here, you know, just to kind of help, you know, what I'm talking about as I'm trying to explain it. Yeah. So obviously you've got the same templates transferred on the both sides. So obviously that gets cutting out, and obviously you've got the back section as well, so that needs to be cut. So that obviously that's going to be at the very bottom. That's going to be where the heel, you know, gets parted. I mean, the problem with this is that obviously the more you start removing, the less you've got to basically, you know, hold in a vise or whatever. I think possibly I might actually have to break out some of the bigger clamps, and basically get it clamped into a clamp that I would usually clamp multiple boards with, you know, maybe for a tabletop, something like that. You know, I'll probably get me Bessie clamps. That's what I've got in my head at the moment. Use me Bessie clamps, get it clamped into place, and then basically clamp the Bessie clamps to me bench, probably. Obviously there is problems with all this, you know. It sounds like quite easy me saying it, but you know, there is problems. I can't really think of a great deal at the moment. I can't fully give you like a lot of examples, but trust us, there will be. There's always issues. You know, that's why I've got to think about a lot of things when I'm doing stuff on the Roman workbench. Like I said on my last podcast, a lot of this comes from necessity, nothing else, you know. Yeah, it's going to be pretty interesting, you know, even just the work holding of it. I think it's going to be rather challenging. I would like to think that once I've made like maybe 1 or 2 legs, I should have it down, but in reality, I really don't think that's going to happen. I think maybe with experience and knowing myself, that maybe on the 4th leg, I'll probably get to a point where, so that's how I should have done it. Most likely, you know, obviously it's going to take us like, you know, 4 attempts to probably get there. But as I said, it would be nice if I could get that done and dusted on the 1st attempt. I mean, it would be kind of good. Same again, I don't know if this would work, but it would actually be quite good if I could maybe leave the front section, sorry, the top section where the mortise and tenon joint's going to be, and the bottom section where the foot's going to be. So everything in between, I could just start removing. However I'm going to remove it. Obviously I've got two big squares at either end, and obviously I'm going to be able to clamp that down, and that's just going to, you know, it's going to be phenomenal to do. I probably, what I might do, that's just popping in my head, if I am going to do something like that, it's probably going to be beneficial for myself to make some sort of you know, some 45-degree angle holders, you know, basically 45 degrees, so that means that I can turn the leg 45 degrees. So, you know, I've got one of the corners, you know, pointing up instead of one of the faces. Same again, that's just going to make life a lot easier for us. So that's probably something I'm going to have to do. Not necessarily going to have to do, but I think it would just make my life like a lot easier. You know, I think if it's going to be a massive struggle for us, yeah, I'll most likely lose patience, and I'll probably abandon it. So I don't particularly want to do that, because, you know, it will be very cool. I don't particularly know what I'm going to do with the table when it's finished. Obviously that depends on how it turns out. I've never built one of these tables before. I'm quite confident I can, you know, build one and for it to be reasonable. But obviously it's one of them, because if it turns out really well, you would be able to sell it, because it's going to look very out of place in my house. However, some of the problems that I've got with things like this, if I feel I've done a really good job, I don't want to part with the furniture. I've done that with the last well stick chair that I made. I didn't want to get rid of it, and I didn't get rid of it. It's still in my sitting room. I don't use it. it's just sitting there looking pretty, but you know, I couldn't bring myself to sell it, because, you know, I personally thought I'd done a good job. So yeah, who knows? I think I think the main thing with getting this table to look good, at least for myself, is to get the legs as close to each other as possible, meaning to how to put it, basically be able to replicate you know, to the correct size, the correct, you know, whatever curvature I use on leg 1, I've got the curvature on leg 2, to make them as identical as to make them as identical as I possibly can. And obviously when you're using hand tools, you can get it quite close. I don't think, me personally, I don't think I'd be able to get it like 100%, but I want to be able to get to the point where I'll be happy, you know. And I think that's one of the keys to something like this, to one of these tables, is to where you're able to get the legs like really close to, like, pretty much identical, you know, as close as you can to identical. I think that's going to be like kind of one of the key features. I think if I get that done and down, I think it'll look really good. But obviously I'm kind of not going to know till I get there, and sometimes with myself I can be a little bit overcritical, but at the same time I like to be overcritical, because sometimes it can like push you along. If you're lacking in something, if you're lacking in whatever, you know, I think sometimes being overcritical will make you better at something. Not all of the time, but you know, I feel sometimes, for myself at least, you know, it helps to push us along with certain things. So I am thinking about doing this. I'm not overly sure what type of material I'm going to use. I have actually got some sapel left, or sapelli, that I've had for a long time. This was reclaimed. It is kicked about a bit. I was kind of thinking about doing that. I think some of these like Queen Anne tables, they were made from mahogany, I want to say. I'm sure mahogany, and I think there was some oak as well. I think there was a few examples of oak. I'm not totally sure of any other types of wood. Obviously I'm going to have to look into it. As I said, I'll have to see. For me personally, it would be nice to use another material. I do like oak. I use oak a lot. But I would maybe like to try something else that's not going to cost us an arm and a leg. Obviously it depends on the cost of the material, because, you know, as I said, I may sell it, I may not sell it. It's one of those, you know, it really, I'm not going to know until I know, basically. So there's that to take into consideration. But I'm probably going to do a video series on it. I think, I'm not promising, but most likely going to do a video series on it. The reason I say a video series is because the time of year it is, so I am restricted by the weather. But I do think that's going to be my next project. I do have a couple of smaller projects planned, videos, but they shouldn't take like very long at all to do. But I mean, I think that'll be really good. And as I said, that one of the reasons is for the weather, so there's going to be a video series. And I don't think it's going to be a 2-minute process, you know, to kind of get these legs done. You know, I think these legs are going to, like, you know, take hours and hours at a time, you know, for like one leg. You know, I see, I've never done one, so I don't really know, but I could be looking at all day to get one done. So it's with the tools as well. What like some of the tools I'm going to be using, the same again, straight off the top of my head. I don't think I'm going to use any sort of coping saw or frame saw. I don't think. Maybe not. I'm going to be using my Ryobi, of course. That's probably going to be for some relief cuts, most likely. If I go down that route, I probably will go down that route. Obviously, I'm going to be using chisels, multiple chisels. My Shinto rasp 110%. I absolutely love the Shinto rasp. I think it's going to be a massive help on this. I may actually look into any other sorts of Shinto rasps that have been released lately, or within the last, basically since the last time I looked, because it might have been, you never know, basically, because I did actually look on Workshop Heaven's websites, and I was actually quite surprised. There was like a lot of new tools. It's been a while since I've had a look on it, but there was a lot of new tools. I was like, ooh, a lot of new tools I don't need, but I wanted. There's a lot of things a lot of things I had my eye on, kind of if money wasn't a big deal, if I had the money to get what I wanted, I would spend absolute fortunes on that website. I really would. It might actually be I might actually do a next week's podcast on that, kind of some of me tools, some of the tools I've got an eye on, basically, that I don't particularly need, I just want. But there was actually quite a few, and I could maybe showcase them and explain what they're doing, whatever else, so maybe so probably there's going to be a lot of sanding involved with this as well, with the legs, obviously. Some really harsh, some harsh grits, sandpaper. Yeah, I mean, again, it depends how brave I get, because I know with some of these tables there was actually carvings in them. So I have done a little bit of carving, but I haven't, I couldn't call myself a carver because I'm far from a carver. But there was like kind of like a stage I went through when I was doing a little bit of carving. Same again, it was nothing, I watched a few YouTube videos and I had a go. Again, like I say, it was nothing great, but I carved the flower and you could tell it was a flower, basically, and it kind of looked half respectable, and I do emphasize half. So maybe a little bit of few, some carving chisels perhaps. Not that I've got many, but yeah, it has got like a lot of challenges with it, this build, but I feel that it's, I'm going to learn a lot from it, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And also the fact that it's been such a long time since I've actually done any kind of decent furniture, or built something that I've never built. It's been quite some time. So yeah, it might be something to get my teeth into. It would be good to get that started maybe in like 2 weeks time, obviously 2 weeks time, and might be looking at maybe, like a video might not be released for maybe another 3-4 weeks, but it kind of is what it is, isn't it? But if you're interested, keep an eye on that, because I'm pretty sure I'm going to do that. I may actually, while I'm away at work, I might actually arrange, to pick the wood up and everything, choose me said wood, and go and pick it up. If not, I can always fall back onto the Sapelli if I choose to use that. There will be enough to use, so I'll have to kind of make my mind up. But yeah, I think that's enough rabbiting for today. Again, thanks very much for everyone that's commented, for everyone that's subscribed, and so on and so forth. Really appreciate it, guys. And until the next time, I shall see and speak to you guys later.